Welcome back to the channel, everyone. And on today's episode, I wanted to talk about some data on Tekken. So the two major sites for Tekken are okizeme.gg, which is going to be this one, and TekkenDocs. So these sites, um, are really great sites to review on frame data and learning about specific moves. They also have guides for characters. With this said, I have specific data that we're going to take a look at, and for that, we're going to take a look at some moves. Now, I've already done some of this review by filtering out the data, and I'm just going back to touch on some things that I noticed as I work my way through my notes. So, just to clarify, I'm not an expert. I am not an authority. These numbers are approximations, and I'm doing this for my own learning and exploration. You will hear me say that's interesting a lot, and I apologize for that. So with that said, let's just kind of get into the data. So looking at the data, again, these are approximations, and data will get changed and uploaded as new characters come out. Certain attributes don't get filtered by TekkenDocs. Just to start off, like there's over 6,000 moves in this game, which that's a lot of moves. That's a lot. 5,600 of these moves hit you. I thought that was kind of interesting. 1,300 highs, 3,100 mids, and then 680 lows, and then 500 throws, and roughly 1,000 stand space moves. And I kind of just took these and put these together because the throw really is kind of like a high, but at the same time you could treat the throw as a low because it breaks the standing guard. And I kind of came to the conclusion that this is about 20% of the moves in the game. Now, getting into the percentage, we have 500 throws, which is 9%. The lows, that's 12%. The highs, that's 23%. The mids, it's 55%. So that's pretty much like the percentage of the moves in the game. Now, of all these moves, the moves that come back as stance, that's going to be about roughly 20%. So that was something that kind of was interesting to me as I kind of looked at it. Other things that I found interesting, there are over 2,300 block punishable moves in the game. So about 40% of the game's moves are block punishable, which is kind of crazy. Like that many moves are punishable. And that's like roughly 60, almost 60 moves per character across the entire roster. So that's a lot of moves to try to remember, to properly punish. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying like that's a lot. Yeah, 1,400 unsafe mids, roughly 200 unsafe highs, 640 unsafe lows. Now, these numbers, I would take these numbers with a grain of salt because, like, I kind of just did like a basic pull or basic filter. I really didn't dig into like, okay, of these one hit strings, like which ones are lows and break it down from there. I didn't really do a very good job there. I just kind of took like a quick pass at it and was just kind of like, oh, I was like, oh, okay. So, and then we have 500 duckable moves, and then we have 180 moves that are 0 on block, and then 480 moves that are 0 on hit. And then there's around roughly 230 moves that force on crouch on block. So with that scenario, that's a mind game. That's a mind game essentially. So with that said, I have more punishable move data. Roughly 1,100 punishable one-hit moves. I thought that was kind of interesting. There are roughly 3,000 moves that are considered safe on block. I thought that was kind of interesting as well. 422 unsafe stance moves. I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm not going to dig too heavily into this. This was just something I was just kind of just taking notes of. You see here. And then the raw move data itself, I was kind of just digging through and just trying to see, okay, based on the frame, how many are punishable at that frame? So you have 513 moves that are duckable. Thought that was kind of interesting. Minus 10, minus 11, minus 12, minus 13, minus 14, all that. And I kind of grouped these together to kind of give some clarity. So launch punishable kind of came back at roughly 14%. Again, asterisk because different characters can launch certain moves at certain frames. So again, take that number with a grain of salt. Knockdown punish, I just kind of concluded was like around 20%. Jab punish 8%. Again, these numbers can vary depending on the character. As far as duckable data, 525 moves that are duckable, 400 moves that ends at high, 430 moves that are duckable and are safe on block. Let's see here. And as I kind of got into it, here's a hypothetical. So like, let's just say like you wanted to like really craft like a strong defense, and you just wanted to know like a lot of stuff. You wanted to know like hypothetically everything. So I thought about that. So if you knew the block punishable moves, that's about 40%, 513 moves. If you knew deductible moves, that's 9%. The moves that force the crouch on block, which is a mind game. And then, the moves that are zero on block, zero on hit, and then the throws, you knew how to throw break, and you'd be at roughly 72%. So that's about 3/4 of the moves, and, well, about 70%, about 2/3 of the way there, pretty close. There is a gap, however. For moves that push back, there's some moves at like -9 that just have pushback. There's some moves like -4 to +3 for frame advantage. Those moves I couldn't really like filter out very well. And then mind games at like -6 and higher, there are moves that kind of function with that group. And then you have evasion-based moves where they have evasion, and then you have the safe stance moves, and then obviously the safe moves. I think I covered safe moves previously, but I just wanted to put that there just in case I didn't cover it pretty well. So like, again, this is like a quick video. It wasn't like super long, but I just wanted to kind of touch on like the data and just kind of just looking at the numbers. Punishment, that's one area. Yeah, there's a reason why, punishment is such a thing, because 40% of the moves in the game are punishable. So that's something that, as much as, even myself, like I don't really like dealing with it. It's something that's got to get done. Like you kind of have to know this, or else you really it's not going to be pretty trying to play the game, because it's just something you have to kind of know how to do. But I got some interesting takeaways from just looking at this data. Conclusions. Look at TekkenDocs, look at OKZMA, and review the frames if you're having trouble. And take notes of these moves so you can practice and get better. Again, like I'm not an expert. I'm not like an authority. Again, I was just looking at the stuff from my own learning and my own observations. With that said, appreciate you guys for taking the time to listen to me speak, and look forward to the next one. Peace.